The world of comedy has lost another giant. Gilbert Gottfried has passed away.
His family announcing the sad news on Twitter, saying his death follows a lengthy illness. Now, Gottfried, of course, one of the most iconic voices in comedy, was remembered as a wonderful husband, brother, friend, and father to his two young children. Gilbert Gottfried was 67 years old.
And what you're seeing now are images of Gilbert Gottfried's two final shows that actually took place here in Toronto on March 26th and March 27th. Joining us now on the line is Israel Castillo. He owns DFRNT Nights, who brought him to the city. Israel, thank you so much for joining us. So you must have been so surprised when you heard the news of Gilbert Gottfried's passing.
Absolutely. I was just at home and someone sent me an email and I was super shocked because obviously he was just here about 2 weeks ago. So it's very sad. My condolences to the family. And you know, on a positive side, it's amazing that we got the chance to actually have him here in the city and to have three amazing shows. And it's just very sad and very shocking.
It's awful. There's no doubt about that, Israel. And now, of course, people are going to sort of analyze the shows that Gilbert did in Toronto as they turn out to be his last three shows. What's going to stand out to you? What do you remember from the act, you know, those nights? I'm sure he did a similar act each of the nights. And did you detect anything in him? Because the family in the statement said, you know, this was from a long illness.
Yeah, I mean, first off, the shows were great. The audience was amazing. You know, they applauded him when he came on stage. They chanted his name every time he came off stage for the three shows. I mean, clearly he had a little bit of, you know, just kind of like muscle issues, which is what, you know, the news is saying now. So he was a little bit, you know, fragile. But aside from that, I mean, his spirits were great. You know, once he went on stage, you could really tell that, you know, the Gilbert Gottfried that everybody knows of really shined through him. You know, he's a natural on stage.
He certainly is. He's iconic. And you were mentioning that the audience was cheering him on. So tell me a little bit more about their reaction on those three shows and what a treat it was for the audience to see him in person and headline the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was everybody. Once again, he's so iconic that he hasn't been in the city for such a long time that I think it was just the right time to bring him here. I think the shows did extremely well. Everybody, like I said, was cheering. Everyone had a standing ovation when he came on stage. He did a lot of his classic stuff where he did a lot of one-liners. The shows were great. The opener was also amazing. Once again, it's just very unfortunate that this happened. It's a shock, obviously, to the community of comedy, even to Toronto, just the fact that this was, unfortunately, his last show.
Yeah, it really is. Israel, listen, appreciate you joining us here on CP20 Breakfast today and sort of talking more about Gilbert Gottfried's last shows, which, of course, as you mentioned, we found out were here in Toronto just last month. Thanks for the time today, and our condolences to you.
No problem. Thank you so much.
All right, and we continue remembering Gilbert Gottfried with ETOG Slaney Louis. She joins us now, and the world is reacting to the news, and a lot of celebrities also talking about Gottfried's death.
Yeah, he was definitely admired within the comedy community. So we have been hearing from so many people in comedy expressing their condolences and their grief about this loss. And these are big names. We've got Jon Stewart, for example. We have Conan O'Brien. We have big voices in comedy who looked up to Gilbert Gottfried for his, you know, he's known in the comedy world for the expression "too soon." There's Alan Menken who tweeted about how much you know, what a great loss this is. So to go back to that too soon thing, this was a comedian who was not afraid to make a too soon joke. There's Jon Stewart's statement, and what I mean by that is he's considered one of the first, if not the first, to joke about 9/11. And you can imagine the great risk that a comedian takes to joke about that kind of subject matter. But in 2001, it was Gilbert Gottfried at an event in New York City who made a joke about that event, and people walked out and they were upset. But then he followed it up with a bigger joke and had the room back. So this is why so many people in the comedy community are feeling this loss, because that's what comedians should do. Go right up to the line and maybe cross it, but keep doing it over and over again.
I know for me, I was surprised. I did not realize he was battling an illness. And this is something that the family has now mentioned.
Yes, and it sounds like this was not something that a lot of people knew in the industry. And, you know, we think about last year, Norm Macdonald as well. And, you know, it's worth considering whether or not this is quite specific to comedy. As you've been talking about, his last shows were just a couple weeks ago here in Toronto, because I guess in comedy, there are a lot of them who don't want to reveal that part of themselves because they don't want that to affect whether or not their jokes are effective. The jokes should stand on their own. The performance should stand on its own, and it should not be interfered with a comic's personal life. So it is for us to be mentioning that a lot of people didn't know he was battling an illness privately. I wonder if that may have been, you know, dedication to ultimately his art form.
Yeah, definitely a huge loss, the world reacting. All right, Lainey, always nice chatting with you. I wish it was on a brighter note, but thank you so much for joining us. And of course, you can catch more of today's entertainment news on eTalk. Thank you so much, Lainey.
Thank you.